Hi, I'm Stassi Schroeder. On my podcast, I share candid updates from my personal life, chat with some of my best friends about what's going on in our lives, give commentary on the latest pop culture headlines, and sometimes deep dive into random topics I'm obsessed with, like human design. It's a bit all over the place, but that's how I like it. And you will too. Listen to my podcast, Stassi, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 393 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great. You and I talked about it on our Patreon thing this week, but we both had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everybody else did as well.
Of course.
Got to see family, ate a lot of great food, probably put on at least 5 pounds.
Oh, absolutely.
I ate a lot of pecan pie.
Did you eat a lot of pecan pie?
Uh-huh.
Pecan.
Yeah. I love pecan pie, and I don't like a lot of sweets.
No.
But there's something about pecan pie or pecan pie or however you want to say it that I'm into.
It is weird that you ate 2 pies by yourself.
It is. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Sean McKinney jump out at our highest level.
Hey, McKinney.
Caroline Gillespie.
There's Gillespie.
Andrea Edwards.
What's going on, Edwards?
I was going to try to just let that one go.
Yeah.
But I couldn't stifle the laugh. So, Tracy Kinsey.
Hey, Kinsey.
Bethany Harnett.
Oh, Harnett.
Emanon Tremaine jumped down to our highest level.
Tremaine. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Naomi Witz.
Hey, Witz.
And last but not least, Alexis Roan.
Oh, we're on.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Kristen Mosier.
Well, thanks, Mosier.
Yeah, so appreciate all the new Patreon support, the continued support. We also had a great PayPal donation from Lily Goldfarb.
Well, thanks, Goldfarb. I don't know why I decided to say everybody's last name this time, but...
Yeah, you like to mix it up.
Yeah.
So, Gibbs, right now we have a brand new episode out on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about 18-year-old Michelle Boucher. She went missing in 1980. Her body was found, but it wasn't identified until 2015. And a man confessed to her murder, and people were shocked to find out who it was.
Very disturbing.
Yeah, the details are very disturbing. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about the disappearance of Tiffany Whitton. 26-year-old Tiffany Whitton was last seen fleeing a Walmart in Marietta, Georgia. After she was apprehended by loss prevention associates, she has not been seen since. Although there was suspicious activity on her social media accounts in the months following her disappearance, 11 years later, Tiffany is presumed dead, and her former boyfriend is the main person of interest in her disappearance. Tiffany Whitton was born on January 30th, 1987. Her parents divorced when she was an infant. Tiffany's mother, Lisa Daniels, described her daughter as a green-eyed beauty with a troubled soul.
That's an interesting way to describe your child. Not the green-eyed beauty part.
The troubled soul?
The troubled soul.
Well, let's face it. Teenagers, even kids in their early 20s, can often be troubled. They got a lot going on, especially in today's world.
Oh, man.
Now, it depends on, I think, the person who hears the word troubled to make out of that what they want to. Because I think there's a wide spectrum for people on what troubled means.
Sure. Some
days I'm troubled. I'm vexed. I'm having a tough day.
Yeah.
Versus, somebody could say, well, troubled is battling addiction and this and that and just all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
So, it's a word that I think to many people can mean different things.
I think I see it as the meaning for me is a little heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do take it heavier. Growing up, Tiffany loved spending time outdoors. She also enjoyed basketball, cheerleading, and cooking shows. She wanted to be a veterinarian. I think a lot of kids at one point want to be veterinarians.
Because they love their dogs and cats.
Yeah. My oldest daughter did. She loves animals, but she cannot stand the sight of blood, wounds, gore. So that was a non-starter.
Pretty quick out on that
Yeah.
one, huh? Yeah.
Now, if a veterinarian was just holding animals and playing with them, she'd be all in.
She'd be one of the most successful ones ever.
Yeah. Lisa said that Tiffany was outgoing, passionate, headstrong, and friendly to others. Lisa Daniels told Esquire that her daughter was outgoing, passionate, headstrong, loved children, and was friendly to others. I think there's a lot of great quality.
It is.
Now, headstrong is another one of those words that can mean different things to different people.
And I think sometimes headstrong is a really good thing, but I also think that it could be a hindrance.
Well, it's a word that can have both positive and negative connotations.
Yes.
You know, my youngest is very headstrong. Most of the time, it's in a good way.
Right.
Sometimes it can be in a not so good way.
And we all know where she gets it from.
Yeah, she gets it from me. Tiffany dropped out of high school her sophomore year. According to 11 Live, Esquire reported that Tiffany became pregnant in high school and gave up custody of her baby. She was never the same after this, and she never talked about it. So this is all according to, the reporting, Esquire. And
Well, I think that would be a tough thing to talk about.
yeah, I do too. For me, it's more of she was never the same after this. Like the experience changed her so completely.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like to give up a child. I think for a lot of people, that could be a tough thing to do. And it's something that could stick with you for a very long time. Tiffany later had her daughter, Addison, who was just 6 years old when her mother disappeared. As a young adult, Tiffany struggled with addiction and she made poor choices. She used drugs such as OxyContin, heroin, and meth. So, Oxy, a lot of people can get addicted to that. Heroin and meth are, no joke.
No, none of it's any joke. It's easy to get your hands on and can do a lot of damage.
She also developed a habit of shoplifting. She was first caught stealing $3 flip-flops from Walmart.
Got to be rough getting caught for just $3,
Yeah. I mean, I know you shoplift a lot. Not because you have to. You have the money. It's more of the thrill.
The challenge.
Just to see if you can get away with it. Now,
how do you do it at big stores, though?
Yes, and it's usually much higher dollar values.
Yeah.
Because the reward has to be worth the risk for you.
Of course. But when I shoplift their clothes and put them on as multiple layers and get caught, it's kind of hard to talk my way out of it.
You got a lot of tags rustling as you try to run out the store. Lisa told Esquire Tiffany couldn't keep her hands off things. She began stealing when she was 2. I'd find things in her toy box that didn't belong to her. She was stealing from daycare. I'd ask about it. She'd say, someone gave it to me. She was also a pathological liar. She just got better at it over the years. So, I mean, these are things that her mother is saying about her. Now, are some of these things rough? Yeah, they are. But I think a lot of times when you're going to tell the story, you might as well be accurate.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
The best way to do it, but we know that there's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, feel like they have to lie.
Well, a lot of family members don't want the bad stuff to come out about their loved ones.
Right.
Tiffany served a short prison sentence in 2012 after she broke into the home of a woman she thought ripped her off in a drug deal. While in prison, Tiffany exchanged letters with her grandmother, Anita Boyette. Anita picked Tiffany up when she was released and took her to rehab. Tiffany left rehab after 1 month and began using drugs again. And that's something we hear time and time again, and something that I've experienced in real life.
Yeah.
You know, I have a couple of family members who have gone to rehab, but they don't stay. It's kind of hard for it to work.
It is. And I know it's you want to blame them. Like, all you have to do is stay. Do the program. It works. Stick with it. But you're not in their shoes.
It's sometimes easier said than done.
Absolutely.
Right? That addiction is so strong. It grabs people and it just won't let them go.
Nope.
Tiffany had a difficult relationship with her mother because of her struggles with addiction. She hadn't seen her daughter since Christmas because Lisa wouldn't allow her to see her until she was sober. Lisa said she just was not strong enough to stay off drugs. And it's kind of what we just talked about, right? People get addicted. Does that alone make them a bad person? I would say no.
No.
But that addiction can become so strong that, you know, people do bad things in the throes of the addiction.
Kind of heartbreaking, actually.
It really is to see someone who is so utterly consumed with an addiction that, you know, they don't care about their kids. They don't care about anything but getting that next high. And they're willing to do just about anything to get it. It is heartbreaking.
I remember that show. I don't remember the name of the show.
Well, of course not.
But it used to be on, you know, like Discover or something like that. Where
is Discover similar to Discovery?
Actually, yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a sister-brother program.
Okay.
Yeah, but they would have this program on where people were heavily addicted, and eventually their families would.
Was it called Intervention?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you were about ready to say eventually their families would have to have an intervention.
That's where I was going with it. Yeah.
I used to watch that too.
But the show was so sad because you just see what, a lot of times it focused on what the parents went through, but also what the kids went through with some of the parents that had their own addiction. It was just so sad to see people's, how their life changed.
Yeah. What I remember from that show when I did used to watch it was a lot of parents trying to hold on to their kids.
Yeah.
And they were giving them money or they were doing things for them. And, you know, you had these experts on basically saying, you just have to stop. Yeah. All you're doing is enabling them. But the parents were heartbroken.
Sure.
Because they just wanted to do whatever they could do to keep that person in their life.
Yeah.
Eventually, Lisa had to ask Tiffany to leave her home. Tiffany met her boyfriend, Ashley Cottle. Ashley was from Marietta, Georgia. Tiffany and Ashley met in the summer of 2013. Ashley had recently been released from prison. According to the Georgia Department of Corrections website, his criminal record goes back to 2003 and includes charges like theft, possession of meth, burglary, being a felon in possession of a firearm, and possession with intent to distribute. Okay. Some of those are pretty serious charges.
Yeah. I'm not going to take them lightly.
In the spring of 2013, Tiffany was sober and was living with a man who bought her a car, a phone, and introduced her to his family. She cheated on him and began using drugs again around the time she met Ashley. Now, I don't really know a lot about this guy she was living with. There wasn't a lot in the research about him, but it does sound like maybe this was a good guy. You know, he bought her a car or phone, introduced her to his family. It sounded like he wanted a relationship, but she ended up cheating on him, started using drugs again. And you just wonder how much of that was the lure of the drugs. You know, yeah, this guy's great, My life would be better, potentially. But then over here, there's the drugs.
And it makes me feel a certain way.
And I'll forego all this good stuff just to get my hands on the drug.
Yeah.
Tiffany met Ashley shortly before she was kicked out of the place she was living for stealing. Ashley spoke to Esquire in 2016 and said that the first day he met Tiffany, she took his daughter swimming. She was the first woman who accepted his daughter this way. The relationship developed quickly and Tiffany and Ashley moved in together. Ashley's daughter called Tiffany Mom. They moved often, from motels to different homes, some of which would be classified as drug houses. Their last residence was in Powder Springs, Georgia. Ashley liked that Tiffany had a job. He thought she had her shit together. That's what he said.
Well, it's always good when the person you're in a relationship with have their shit together.
Yeah, better than the opposite.
Sure it is.
Tiffany worked at an IHOP on Highway 41 in Marietta, Georgia. She was often sent home for coming to work high. In August 2013, she was fired after she was caught on camera stealing from another waitress.
I was thinking a lot of people probably go to IHOP because they are high.
Yeah, IHOP. Around here, there used to be a place called Denny's. That was like the go-to place late at night.
Waffle House.
Waffle House is always a staple.
Yeah. So it sounds like her addiction caused her problems at her work.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're coming in high, that's not going to go over well. My assumption is she was stealing from this other waitress, probably to get more drugs. You can make that assumption. According to Esquire, Lisa Daniels cut off all contact with Tiffany the month before she went missing. It was their last conversation. Lisa said, "Tiffany, I will always love you, but you're killing me." And that sounds to me like an exasperated mom.
Yeah.
Who just doesn't know what else to do.
Like, I've tried everything. Nothing's working. Maybe this will work. I just have to break my ties with you.
However, according to 11 Live, their last contact was on August 31st. They exchanged text about a football game Tiffany was supposed to be going to. Tiffany's grandmother, Anita Boyette, was the first in the family to meet Ashley and the last family member to see Tiffany before she went missing. Anita went to church on September 8th, 2013, and turned her phone off before service. When she turned it back on, she saw a message from Tiffany that said, "Meemaw, where are you?" Anita called, and Tiffany told her that she and Ashley's daughter were stuck at their home with no transportation and no food in the house. Anita picked Tiffany up, took her to McDonald's, and then dropped her off. Anita saw Ashley for the first time when she picked Tiffany up. She thought to herself, "My granddaughter is mixed up in this?"
Doesn't sound good, does it?
No, I mean, I think this is a grandmother who's very astute, is seeing this situation in which her granddaughter is living and is like, what in the world have you gotten yourself into? Tiffany called her grandmother later that evening and asked if she could wash her clothes. Anita met Tiffany and Ashley's daughter at a laundromat and then took her home. Anita said to Tiffany, "Honey, why don't you come home?" Tiffany responded, "I wouldn't go without Ashley." Anita asked, "Doesn't he have a home?" And Tiffany said, "He wouldn't go without me."
So they can either go to his home or her home, but either way, they have to be together. And that's the problem. They don't want to not be with each other.
Ashley told Esquire that Tiffany became dependent on him after she lost her job. He was already a single father with a daughter to support, and this was an extra responsibility on his plate. In his words, he was a petty drug dealer before Tiffany was fired, but he started really trying to move drugs to support them.
Was it to support them or to support them and their habits?
Well, I think it could be viewed as one and the same. He said he didn't know the true level of Tiffany's addiction until she came to him one day and told him she was sick. She admitted she was using heroin and asked him for money. They argued because, in Ashley's words, "I've always been addicted to meth." but I'm totally anti-heroin. Is heroin worse than meth?
I don't know if it's worse.
It just seems strange to be totally fine with one, but anti the other. Now, I know heroin is usually taken intravenously, right? Like shot into your vein.
Yeah, typically.
Okay, I just wanted to explain that word because you weren't responding.
I was just giving it a thought real quick.
Okay. So I don't know if maybe that's why somebody would be against it, but meth's pretty bad from my understanding.
Yeah.
They argued over Tiffany's spending habits and her shoplifting. According to Ashley, they had 2 fights, but those fights never got physical. And here, Gibbs, we always talk about, what does someone say in the wake of someone's disappearance, right? In this case, we're talking about what Ashley is saying. Is he going to come out and say, I beat her on a regular basis? No,
of course not.
Now, maybe he's being truthful. I don't know. But the thing is, the person who could corroborate or disagree with his statements is not around.
No.
So
all we have is the one-sided story.
Yes. Tiffany and Ashley went to a Walmart on Highway 41 in Marietta, Georgia, in the early morning hours of September 13th, 2013. And I can tell you from experience, there's very little good that goes on in the early morning hours at a Walmart. When I was an assistant manager back in my early 20s, they put me on third shift for like 6 months.
Yeah.
It was the strangest 6 months of my entire life. And I'm not even joking. I saw things that I thought I would never see in my life.
Yeah.
Have never seen since.
Yeah.
At 3:00 in the morning at a Walmart.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to run into.
I have been told if you want to just experience some funny and weird stuff, go to a Walmart middle of the night and walk around, and you will see some things that you will shake your head. And
that is absolutely true. 100%.
Well, there's a reason why there's the people of Walmart photos out there.
Oh my gosh. When we were at work, people used to send those around. Those were some funny things. According to Esquire, this Walmart was in an area that was being affected by meth and heroin. Ashley allegedly did business here. The Walmart was also across the highway from the IHOP Tiffany used to work at. She sometimes visited the restaurant after she was fired. Tiffany was recorded by security cameras, pushing her shopping cart around the store, filling it with clothes, and emptying it repeatedly. She and Ashley spent about an hour in the store. It was obvious that Tiffany was high in shoplifting. Her mother would say that she thinks it's strange how Tiffany stole inexpensive items, but then still purchased other items.
Doesn't really add up sometimes.
Doesn't make sense. At around 2 a.m., Ashley paid cash for a portable loudspeaker and some clothing. As they were heading out of the store, Tiffany was walking a few feet behind Ashley when a man grabbed her by the strap of her handbag. He identified himself as a loss prevention associate. Another loss prevention associate soon joined him. We had a lot of shoplifters while I was at Walmart.
Yeah.
We had some chases. I remember sitting on a guy until the police came one time.
Okay.
A lot of funny stories from Walmart.
Oh, yeah.
But, I was like 22, 23 years old. Nothing fazed me back then.
Yeah. Today you wouldn't chase after the person.
No.
You're like, whatever.
I'd be like, what's he got? A $10 shirt?
Yeah. We'll just write it off.
Yeah. You don't even know what a write-off is. So she's identified, by these loss prevention associates. Ashley turned at the door to face her. She called his name, but he didn't answer.
He's probably like, I don't want nothing of this. Do not pull me into this.
Well, don't forget, we listed off quite a few charges for him. Or we listed off his record. I'm assuming he tried to stay away from any type of trouble.
And maybe he had something on him too.
He could have.
Yeah.
Either from Walmart or something else that was illegal that he didn't want to get exposed. Tiffany then took her arm out of her handbag, ran out of her flip-flops, and fled the store. Instead of running straight for the door, she went towards one of the loss prevention associates, then ran past her boyfriend towards the parking lot, running until she was off camera. Ashley didn't turn around to see where she went. The loss prevention associates didn't chase after her. Tiffany never came back to get her purse or her flip-flops.
Well, why would she? That means she would have to have that conversation with loss prevention.
Yeah, you can always get new flip-flops. Now, I don't know what was in her purse, but again, coming back is not going to be good for her. Ashley explained what happened from his perspective to Esquire, emphasizing that he had nothing to hide. You know what type of people always emphasize they have nothing to hide?
People that have things to hide.
Yeah. I'm not saying he does, but you know, it's kind of like one of those things. If you have to say it, then obviously you're thinking about it.
Yeah. Is
it because you really do have something to hide? Like the person says, I'll be honest with you. No, just always be honest.
Yeah.
Why do you have to tell me now that you're going to be honest with me? Ashley said that while they were at the Walmart, he was trying to convince Tiffany to leave because he had somewhere to go. She was annoyed, but it wasn't a big argument. He didn't know Tiffany was stealing, so he was angry when the loss prevention associates grabbed her. Now, that's a tough one for me. You know, if I'm there with my wife and we're shopping, I think I would know if she was shoplifting.
You'd want to know.
Maybe not. Maybe she was so good at it, she's hid it from me.
You're like, baby, if you're going to pull a Winona Ryder, let me know.
Yeah, because I'm either going to get on board or we're going to have to part ways, and I'll just meet you back out at the truck.
Exactly.
You take your chances.
Yeah.
Ashley said, I was outside in the truck charging my phone. Okay. And when I come in the store to get her, I was like, look, we got to go. When we went to the checkout, I was getting some shirts to leave with. I was checking out and she was in her purse pulling stolen items out. And there's all these Walmart workers in the front. Okay. So we got to leave. I guess I was on my phone and the loss prevention people come out, but they didn't identify themselves as loss prevention. Right. And she said, Red, that's what people call me. They call me Red. And I didn't answer. Then she said my first name. She said Ashley. And I turned around and looked and they got her by both arms. And another black dude has got her purse and there's 3 black guys. So I pulled the knife out. They didn't see it. I had it by my side. I'm like, look, let her go. And she's struggling with them. I'm like, look, let her go. They let her go and she took off running by me. And I always love to read these statements. First of all, some of them are hard because they're not Shakespeare.
Well, I know it's difficult, especially when you work with somebody like me that is like Shakespeare.
It has perfect, diction, grammar, all the English skills.
Absolutely. But he's telling his story the way he sees it.
Yes. Now, parts of his statement are disproved by video evidence. There were only 2 loss prevention associates, and Ashley never pulled out a knife. The video ends with him standing at the door, talking to a loss prevention associate. So, they're pretty much saying he lied. The video disproves his statement. Ashley also described how he felt when he discovered Tiffany was stealing, saying, I had some things going on. You know what I mean? There were wrong things going on that I was doing. You know what I'm saying? So, I had $400 or $500 in my pocket and she's wanting to steal makeup and little stuff. It didn't sit right with me. I was mad at the beginning. Not that kind of mad. I was disappointed in her more than anything. I don't go and bust my ass because, believe it or not, it's not easy to go out and do that shit. It's really stressful and it's dangerous and you take a big risk. So I think this is important and I want to break it down a little bit. It kind of goes back to something we were talking about earlier. He's got a lot of illicit things going on.
Right.
I think the last thing in the world he would want is to have any type of disturbance, interaction with law enforcement or anything like that.
He doesn't need this attention.
No. He's got a bunch of money in his pocket. He might have some other stuff in his pocket or in his vehicle that he would not want uncovered.
I mean, he said he's trying to move larger volumes of drugs than he has in the past to help support him and the girls.
And I've never been a drug dealer. I don't plan on being a drug dealer, but I can imagine it probably is really stressful. It is dangerous. You are taking a huge risk.
You are.
After Tiffany ran off, Ashley went to the truck, which he borrowed from a friend. He didn't get in because there were drugs inside, and he didn't want to get caught. He walked across Highway 41. Sometime after 2 a.m., Ashley entered the IHOP across the highway and asked if anybody had seen Tiffany. So that answers that, right? He did have drugs in the truck. Just another reason that he wouldn't want to get embroiled in this whole thing. But I also want to go back to him saying that he was mad at Tiffany. But very quickly he said, not that kind of mad.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the type of statement that someone makes because they know people are looking at them.
Right.
Yeah, I was mad, but not that kind of mad.
Yeah, don't get me mixed up with that stuff.
Where I would have done something to her. Ashley said, but everywhere I went, my actions can be accounted for. There's a strip mall right here next to the exit I came out of at the Walmart. There's got to be cameras there, right? And then the drive-thru at Krispy Kreme has got cameras in it, right? The Metro Lodge, the extended stay motel behind the IHOP has cameras in it. The IHOP has cameras in it. You see what I'm saying? And they show them right there. I didn't ever deviate my path from sitting there and trying to figure this out.
So he's got an answer for a lot of things.
Well, he says that he does. Now, IHOP, all right, I can take it or leave it. But Krispy Kreme, when the red light is on, I ain't passing that up.
The red light?
You never, like when they're making them.
Was that when they're fresh?
That's when they're actually coming off of the conveyor belt.
Oh.
When the light's on.
So they're hot
the
glazed
sign.
donuts.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I gotcha.
They just melt in your mouth.
Oh, well, I know you like that.
However, according to Esquire, none of these movements were captured on camera. So, he's basically saying there's got to be cameras all over that caught me. Well, none of these cameras, whichever ones existed, caught him on camera. Ashley insisted he didn't know what happened to Tiffany, saying it all ends at that Walmart that night. It was me and her. That's where it ends. He said he didn't run after Tiffany because he was angry with her, but he feels guilty that he didn't protect her. He feels he should have followed her. So we said right from the very beginning, Gibbs, that, there are a lot of people who believe that Ashley could potentially have played some sort of role in Tiffany's disappearance.
Sure.
And you can kind of see why. He's told stories that were either proven false or can't be verified. He did have his own addiction.
Right.
He has a pretty long criminal record, and admittedly, he was dealing large amounts of drugs.
Well, a lot of this comes down to how truthful his statements are.
Which you could say about a lot of the cases that we do, right? Especially when you talk about a disappearance case. Again, there's one person who's no longer around, who can't add to the story, contradict the story, or even corroborate the story. So, we talked about this whole incident at the Walmart. Meanwhile, Tiffany's family wasn't aware she was missing. The first indication that something was wrong occurred on September 19th, 2013, which was Lisa Daniels' birthday. No matter what was going on between them, Tiffany always called on her birthday. This time she didn't. About 2 months after Tiffany went missing, her grandmother, Anita, received a letter from a lawyer in Florida who claimed to be representing Walmart. The letter informed Anita that Tiffany had been caught shoplifting, and if she sent a check for $150, she could settle things legally and end the threat of a civil suit. Anita received the letter because Tiffany listed her grandmother's address as her permanent residence. And this is so strange. There is no lawyer who is officially representing Walmart who's going to send a letter saying, hey, if you just give me $150, I'll make this go away.
Yeah.
This is akin to, helping out the Nigerian prince. This is if you send me some Best Buy gift cards, I'll fix this situation with this payment that got screwed up. I mean, there's all these scams, right?
Those are scams?
Yes, those are all scams. Stay away from those.
So I'm not going to get what I gave those Best Buy cards for?
No, those are gone.
And the prince is not going to?
He is not going to give you a big chunk of money.
But I opened that bank account like he said, and I put that money in it. Are you saying I should close that account?
I would cut all of that. But you do seem like the person that would fall for many, many of these scams. But this was another sign that something had happened to Tiffany. She hadn't posted on Facebook since September 1st, and none of her family had been in touch with her. But it was said it wasn't abnormal for them to go a while without talking to her. They had also received civil demand letters before, like the one from Walmart. They thought Tiffany was on the run and was lying low to avoid charges for shoplifting. Anita Boyette called Ashley and confronted him about the fact that Tiffany was missing, and he didn't notify them. At one point in their conversation, Ashley made a comment, I wish I had that purse I bought her. It was a Coach purse, and it was really expensive.
That's a really shallow thing to say.
It is, in the wake of you not notifying her family that you haven't talked to her, you don't know where she is.
But I like that damn purse back.
Lisa Daniels explained to 11 Alive, we didn't realize that anything was wrong until a couple of months later, because she was participating in a lifestyle that she would be off the grid for weeks at a time, because when she was using and things were really bad, the last thing she wanted was for us to know that she was using.
Yeah, so it wasn't uncommon for her not to be around for a while.
And I do think that's a very tough situation. It would be a tough situation even without the disappearance. You have a loved one who kind of goes incommunicado for weeks at a time. You don't know where they are. You don't know if they're okay. That's a tough situation. But when they're really missing and you don't know for months that they're missing because they do go off the grid for long stretches of time, that's tough as well.
It is.
According to News Nation, Lisa said the Marietta police informed her that Tiffany accepted friend requests after she disappeared. Lisa questioned how she could do that if she didn't have her phone, which meant someone else did. In an interview with 11 Alive, Lisa said she went to Tiffany's Facebook and found messages from friends asking if she was okay. Tiffany had hundreds of unread notifications, which was unusual because she was normally very active on Facebook. But I do think, this acceptance of friend requests after she was thought to have gone missing, it's pretty strange.
It is strange.
She's not responding to all these messages. She has a bunch of unread notifications, but yes, she's accepting friend requests, or somebody is.
Yeah, it's almost like maybe her phone was hacked. Her Facebook account was hacked.
And somebody thought, I'm not going to go through and answer all this stuff or read all these things, but if I accept a few friend requests, will that kind of throw off the timeline?
Good.
Or the investigation? Lisa called Ashley again before Thanksgiving 2013. She hoped Tiffany would come home for the holidays like she'd done in the past. Ashley told Lisa he called hospitals, jails, and Tiffany's former boyfriends. He said he loved Tiffany and always would. The other thing I think is tough here, Gibbs, in this situation, you have the family who I don't think, knows Ashley all that well. So they probably don't know how to read him. and they may not get the same level of cooperation that they would get with, someone who's been in the family.
But they also could be a little angry towards them. Like, are you the reason why we don't have a better relationship with her?
Or are you the reason why she's missing? I go back to her grandmother seeing the situation at the house, saying, is this really the situation you're living in? It must have been rough for her to say it like that. Months passed with no activity from Tiffany, but on January 5th, 2014, Tiffany apparently sent a happy birthday message to her half-brother Blake Whitton on Facebook. Lisa believes this is evidence that Ashley had Tiffany's phone and was using it to throw people off.
Well, somebody's got the phone, right? Or has access to Facebook.
Yes, I would say that's absolutely true. But here's the kind of the first salvo in the family believes that Ashley had something to do with it, right? Lisa saying he's the one who has the phone and he's posting this or doing this stuff on Facebook to throw people off. Investigators never called Blake Whitton, but Esquire called him on March 19, 2016. Whitton claimed that Tiffany actually called him 5 days after his birthday. She used an app and called him from a strange number. Tiffany apologized for calling so late. He knows it was her because she called him by his nickname. He said he never told the police about it because they never called him.
Okay. I mean, the police should have called him just to verify. Have you heard from her? She wished I seen it on Facebook. She wished you happy birthday. But why isn't he calling the police too?
Yeah, it seems like such a strange thing. He had to have known that, the family's worried about her.
Yeah.
You would think this is something he would have shared.
Yeah, you could have called the family, could have called the police.
On January 10th, 2014, Lisa Daniels and her mother reported Tiffany missing to the Marietta police. The police searched the woods behind the Sam's Club on the other side of the parking lot from the Walmart where she disappeared. Some initial reports said that Tiffany hid among the trees immediately after she escaped. Lisa checked bars and hotels Tiffany used to go to, and she created the Find Tiffany Whitton page on Facebook. She still messages people online who submit tips. One tip said that Tiffany was a housewife in South Dakota, but tips claim that Tiffany was buried in a crawl space or an old well. Gibbs, these Facebook pages can be very important in a situation like this. Okay, maybe you get a good tip. The problem is you're also going to get a lot of probably nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Hoaxes, people being mean.
People think they're funny.
Yeah, but they're messing with the family. So it can be good and bad. After several weeks, a detective told Lisa that Tiffany was a junkie and would either come back on her own or would be arrested soon. Okay. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's rough to tell the family that.
Sure it is. You just need to wait. She'll either come back because of this or because of that.
At the end of January, the case was reassigned to Detective Johnny Moeller. Moeller had a feeling that something terrible had happened to Tiffany and that whoever did it was ahead of the police. Tiffany's case had already gone cold by then. Detective Moeller called the Marietta Walmart and learned they still had the videotape. For prosecution purposes, she obtained the video on January 27th. Detective Moeller then called Ashley. She told Esquire, once I talked to him, I knew. Okay, that's a cryptic statement.
It is.
But I think, you could take it as one call with him and she was sure that he had something to do with it. Detective Moeller also had information from Lisa Daniels, who had been doing her own detective work. Lisa received a message from Sheila Fuller, a waitress who kicked Tiffany out of the motel room they were sharing when she caught her stealing. Sheila saw Ashley at the IHOP on September 13th. According to Sheila, is quoted by Esquire. I had seen Red's truck in the parking lot. I called him Red. Now I came back to the IHOP and Red's sitting on the bench outside. He said, have you seen Tiffany? I said, why should I have seen Tiffany? I'm the last person Tiffany would want to see. He said, she got caught shoplifting in the Walmart and ran away. And I don't know where she is. I said, call her on her cell phone. He pulled her cell phone out of his pocket and said, I'm charging it. He said, I'm looking for her. I said, then what are you doing sitting here at the IHOP? He said that his friends were going to come get him in a few minutes. It took an hour and a half. Then an SUV pulled up with a guy driving and two girls inside. Red got in the back seat with one of the girls and they drove off.
Okay, strange, right?
Well, if you're really worried about your girlfriend, are you going to wait an hour and a half to start looking for her?
And are you really looking for her?
It sounds like you're on a double date.
What does it sound like to me?
The man who picked Ashley up was Stephen Weinstein, who lived near the Walmart. Tiffany and Ashley went to his apartment to use drugs before they borrowed a truck and went to Walmart. Weinstein stayed at his place. A friend of his named Jason Zuccarini stopped by after Tiffany and Ashley left. Jason briefly dated Tiffany before she dated Ashley. According to Weinstein, Ashley called from the IHOP and asked for a ride. Jason brought him there. Ashley was sitting outside and said Tiffany got caught stealing and ran off. He didn't know where she was and was afraid to go back to the truck. Weinstein believed him, but then Ashley claimed that the guards wouldn't let Tiffany go until he pulled a gun on them.
Now it's a gun, it was a knife, right?
And video proves it was neither. So this is a guy who is proven from video evidence to be telling stories about what he did in his heroic moments to help his girlfriend at the Walmart. Weinstein told Esquire, Ashley's a charismatic guy. He's full of shit and a piece of shit, but people enjoy his company because for a lying piece of shit, he makes them laugh. I hope somebody puts that on my tombstone. He's full of shit and a piece of shit.
Yeah. But he makes us laugh.
But people enjoy him. After we went back to my house, we rode around for a while. Me and Zook looking for her. Ashley didn't want to go because he was afraid of being picked up by the police. He said, she's going to show up. She's going to show up at the house. I felt that he was telling the truth other than the lying part.
Because he lies a lot.
This Weinstein guy's kind of funny if you think about it. I felt as though he was telling the truth other than the part where he was lying.
Yeah.
Besides his lies, which are contradicted by video evidence, the police were suspicious of Ashley because friends said he and Tiffany fought often. When they were living at a motel, they once fought so loudly the police were called. No charges were filed. They were also evicted from a home because of fighting. Additionally, Ashley said he called Tiffany's cell phone while at IHOP, but phone records disprove this. Even if he did call, Tiffany didn't have her phone because she left it behind when she ran out of the store. So again, is he lying? And if so, why is he telling so many lies? I mean, that's a question that I think has to come up.
Yeah.
Now, some people just lie.
Sure they do. They're good at it.
And you can call it being braggadocious, embellishing, whatever. Some people want to make themselves out to be something that they're not, right?
Right.
I pulled a knife on the guard. I pulled a gun, whatever it was. But when you're lying about calling her cell phone, okay, now you're getting into a strange area because, those are the type of things that make you look like you could be guilty of something. Esquire reported that Ashley had a volatile side, as evidenced by a recorded video call with a woman who visited him in prison. And just up front, there's some pretty rough language in this call. At one point, Ashley said, "You're going to like this. I'm going to show you this fucking piece of paper this bitch brought me. That detective lady, Johnny Moeller. You'll like this." What the fuck is that? That's fucking Tiffany's missing persons report. They think I killed that bitch for real. And I'll tell you, honestly, Gibbs, whether this guy had anything to do with it or not, it's a pretty nasty thing to say. You are calling your girlfriend a bitch.
You are.
When you know she's missing.
Right.
Now, I get it. Somebody might be upset if law enforcement thought that they had something to do with it, especially if they thought that, he killed her. But even so, why would you call her that name? First of all, I hate that name. I hated even saying it, but I think it's important to use the exact words, because if not, then the whole conversation loses a little bit of its meaning.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to know his attitude.
Yes. And to me, his attitude is not that of the worried, grieving boyfriend.
No.
It's the, I'm annoyed that I even have to deal with this stuff. On March 13th, 2014, a drug enforcement task force knocked down the door of Ashley's residence in Powder Springs, which was also Tiffany's last known address. Investigators found dog poop and needles everywhere, as well as firearms, meth, and marijuana. 2 children were living in these conditions.
Wow. Sounds like a horrible environment.
For everybody, but especially for 2 young children.
Yeah. You're not taking care of the kid. Sounds like you're not taking care of the animals either.
Or yourself, but also, what does not mix well with kids? Firearms, meth, and marijuana.
Yeah.
Especially firearms. You're just leaving firearms laying around when you have kids around? That's
just asking for problems.
Oh my God. And you got needles everywhere.
Yeah.
Who knows if they're
used
or clean? 8 people were arrested, and custody of the children was transferred to social services, which it absolutely should have been.
I'm just thinking that you tell somebody, oh man, we found these kids in a house full of poop. People will be like, that's disgusting. But that's not the worst thing about this house. Like, the poop is the least of the concerns.
Yeah, it actually is. A bunch of dog poop everywhere is not great, but you're right. Out of all of that, that's the least concerning part of it all. Detective Moeller helped orchestrate this raid. Investigators believe someone knew what happened to Tiffany, but was too scared to speak up. The prosecutor told the people who were arrested they would get special consideration if they were willing to talk to Detective Moeller. Some people were willing to talk. 4 months later, the police executed a search warrant on Ashley's childhood home in Marietta. The police arrived with cadaver dogs and shovels to dig in the yard and the crawl space. And that's pretty interesting. It makes me think somebody gave a very specific tip.
Yes.
That something or someone was buried at his childhood home.
I mean, obviously they got some type of tip to take him to that home.
Some items of evidence were sent to the GBI, but nothing led to Tiffany's discovery. Detective Moeller stopped working the case in 2015 and was replaced by Detective Mike Freer. Detective Freer got a break in the case with the help of prosecutor Jesse Evans. Cobb County was prosecuting a meth trafficker who had information about Ashley. However, it was not firsthand information. The trafficker heard that Ashley and some associates drove to Lake Allatoona, an hour north of Atlanta, and threw a concrete-filled barrel off the side of Bethany Bridge. He heard that the weight of the barrel damaged the bridge.
Pretty heavy barrel.
Yeah. Detective Freer went to Allatoona and found the spot, described by the informer. Using sonar, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources found a large, heavy object under the water. On September 25, 2015, 2 divers from the Georgia State Patrol went into the water to retrieve the object. It wasn't a concrete-filled barrel. It was a piece of concrete from the construction of the bridge. And this really was the last search, probably official search, for Tiffany Whitton.
Over 9 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that had to have been, I think, for that detective, such a rush. right? You get this tip, you get out there, you see this spot, everything's matching up. Her body's in the water in some sort of concrete filled barrel, but divers don't find it.
Doesn't mean it's not there, though.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know how far a concrete filled barrel, if it was super, super heavy, would flow in a river. But in January 2016, the Marietta Police Department referred Tiffany's case to the newly formed cold case unit in Cobb County. Today, Tiffany is presumed dead, and her case is being investigated as a homicide. Detective Johnny Moeller told Esquire in 2016, as far as we know, Tiffany's life ended that night. I don't believe she's missing on her own accord. And I don't believe she's going to come walking through that door. And unfortunately, Gibbs, I have that same thought in many of the cases that we do. I just think it's very unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely in a lot of these disappearance cases that people have just gone off willingly, not contacted their family, and not managed to show up on anybody's radar. I think the likelihood of that is very low. In March 2015, Ashley pleaded guilty to selling meth in Cherokee County and was sentenced to 20 years with a minimum 10-year term. His sentence was harsher because the judge believed he was not working with law enforcement on the missing persons investigation. Wow. I think that tells you a lot.
It does.
Ashley believes that Tiffany's former boyfriend, Jason Zuccarini, should be looked at, but investigators do not consider him a person of interest. 3 months after Tiffany disappeared, Jason aggressively beat on a neighbor's door. At 4 a.m., he told her he was being pursued by men with guns who were seeking revenge for a crime against a woman, but he was innocent. She wouldn't let him in, so he kicked down the door. He called 911 himself and allowed her to bandage his hands, but he terrorized the woman and her children while they waited.
All right. Strange.
That's such a strange scenario. I get it. You feel like somebody's after you. I also get it. This woman does not want to let you in. So he barges in, calls 911, but then terrorizes these people. According to Stephen Weinstein, Jason was one of the last people to see Tiffany the night she disappeared. He got high with her at Weinstein's place. He later went with Weinstein to pick Ashley up and searched for Tiffany. When asked by Esquire what he did when he left IHOP on September 13th, Ashley said he and Stephen Weinstein went back to Weinstein's apartment to get high, but Jason stayed in his car in the parking lot. So you're concerned that your girlfriend is missing, so much so that, you go back to the apartment and you get high. How concerned are you?
Not very.
Ashley Caudell remains the only suspect in Tiffany's disappearance. Investigators believe Tiffany was killed sometime after she ran out of Walmart and before Ashley returned the truck to a house in Powder Springs. Ashley told his probation officer that Tiffany was missing 2 weeks after she disappeared. He also cleaned his truck, but said he always cleaned his truck regularly. So there's a couple of things going against this guy.
There is.
He doesn't notify Ashley's family. Okay. I don't know how well he knew them. Make of that what you will. He doesn't tell his probation officer for 2 weeks. I don't know how much people share with their probation officer, but
yeah, you typically don't want to share more than you need to share with them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I believe that you don't want to share. Former prosecutor Jesse Evans told News Nation in 2024, the working theory is that whatever answers are out there, Ashley Caudell holds them, and he has not been forthcoming with us about things. And I think you saw that from the judge. The fact that the judge threw the book at him for selling meth because he felt as though he was not helping out with the investigation.
Yeah.
Lisa added that Ashley was given the opportunity to take a lie detector test and refused. Ashley was released from prison on September 4th, 2024, after serving 10 years in prison. 11 years later, Tiffany Whitton has not been found. So he served the minimum, right? 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time, though.
Well, you know who's not going to come forward and tell anybody that he may have something to do with her disappearance after spending 10 years in prison?
Ashley?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he doesn't want to go back to prison.
Oh, after spending 10 years in there, you don't want to go back.
But, the one thing I will say is I get it why, police say he's really the only suspect or the only person of interest that they have. But obviously, they don't have a lot of evidence to speak of.
Well, yeah, if they did, they would pursue.
Yeah. I mean, what you have is him telling some things that were proven to be false.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he does have a pretty lengthy criminal record, including this latest 10-year stretch that he just got done serving.
Doesn't mean he did it.
It doesn't mean he did it. The fact that he was a drug dealer doesn't mean he did it. But are those things going to make police look at you a little bit harder? Sure.
Yeah. Definitely not the boyfriend of the year.
No. Or the man of the year.
Or the man of the year.
Tiffany's sister, Summer Strang, expressed her frustration that some people can't see past Tiffany's struggles with addiction. Her family has emphasized throughout the years that her disappearance matters and her life has just as much value as someone who does not struggle with addiction.
Absolutely true.
And that is something that you and I have talked about many times. I think you said it, right? You feel bad for people who are struggling with addiction the way that Tiffany was. We kind of went through some of her struggles with it. Can it make you do some things that you wouldn't do if you weren't struggling with that type of addiction? I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Make bad decisions? Absolutely. Does it mean that you deserve to die? No, absolutely not.
And you deserve for it to be investigated as if you were anybody else. And nothing should be taken away because you were just somebody that used drugs all the time.
Yeah, or, whether someone's a sex worker, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
If they're a victim, they're a victim.
Exactly.
And, the circumstances of their life, it's going to come into play in how the investigation unfolds, right? The different directions that it takes. You're going to look at people maybe in the drug world. If somebody is struggling with addiction or is known to be, using at the time that they disappear, that's just going to happen.
Right.
If you're a sex worker and you disappear, the direction's probably going to lead towards, people who frequent sex workers, things like that. But I think to your point, the investigation shouldn't be any less complete. It shouldn't be any less vigorous, right? Because of what someone does for a living or has going on in their personal life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not always the case. And we've seen that.
Yep, that's true.
Prove itself out. If you have information about the disappearance of Tiffany Whitton, you can call the Marietta Police Department at 770-794-2366. The Find Tiffany Whitton page has a note that those with information can call Detective Ed Stockinger at 770-528-3094. So that is it for our episode on the disappearance of Tiffany Whitton. Yeah, I don't know, how much more is going to come out about this. What's it going to take? I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows the answers.
Sure.
But it would take someone coming forward and revealing that information.
Which really hasn't happened up to this date.
And a lot of times doesn't happen.
Right.
Because I'm thinking most of the time it's not in that person's best interest to do so.
No.
If Ashley had something to do with it, it benefits him in no way to tell the truth.
Not now.
Or any of these other people
that
we talked about on the fringe. unless you can cut some kind of deal to get you out of some other trouble, that's where it may happen. When you're dealing with a lot of people who are into things that could get them in trouble, if they get pinched and need to use what they know as leverage, that's how something could come out in this case in my mind.
Sometimes I wonder if we would ever do something like, it's been X amount of years, there's no way we're ever going to solve it. So if you did this and you come forward and you tell us where the body is, you get a free pass. Nothing, we will not be prosecuted. Can never be used against you, but we just need to know so we can have this case be solved and give some resolve to the family.
Yeah, you might be setting a dangerous precedent there.
Yeah, I know. But
less reason to ever come forward, but I see what you're saying. At a certain point, if it's never going to be solved,
right?
Would there be a benefit, regardless of the price, to be able to give her family, her remains and allow them to lay her to rest? I get that. Yeah. I get that. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to hear those?
Let's hear them.
Actually, I think we have one voicemail. You want to hear it?
Oh, yes. The singular version.
Hi, this is Erica from North Carolina. I just finished the Daytona Killer, the Unsolved side, but I was just calling because towards the end you guys kept harping on how the case would only be solved if, they messed up and their DNA came up in another way, because they did commit another crime or something. But I also wanted to say that, people are getting caught also from the 23andMe, the ancestry DNA stuff. There was a lady a grandmother who recently was arrested because when she was younger, she killed her newborn baby, and her granddaughter is the one that did ancestry DNA, and they tied her DNA, it belonged to a relative is how they did it, but and they eventually figured out that it was the grandmother. So still off DNA, but doesn't necessarily need to be that person is all I was wanting to bring up. But thank you. I love you guys' show, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for the voicemail. Yeah, we've done a lot of episodes involving the forensic genetic genealogy, which is what that is.
Right.
I think that Daytona Killer was pretty early on. I don't remember exactly what year that was that we did that. And the forensic genetic genealogy has been making news, especially with the East Area Rapist, Golden State Killer. I mean, that's really when it started to get a lot of publicity. But in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been used to solve a lot of cases. But I don't remember when we did that episode. We may not have been real familiar with it at that time.
Been a while.
All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Pluto TV is a place for movie fans like me.
And TV fans like me.
They've got something for everyone, and it's free.
I love free, and I love Jersey Shore.
For me, it's The Godfather.
SpongeBob SquarePants, I am Patrick. Patrick is me.
Oh, Forrest Gump, come on.
Criminal Minds, solving crime after bedtime.
Whatever you love to watch, Pluto TV makes it easy with thousands of free movies and shows.
Pluto TV, stream now, pay never.